I was sitting here thinking about a few things, and one of which was how we keep going back to where folks have cited UFOs in the ocean. And there have been a lot of accounts of crafts going in and out of the ocean. We even reference William Cooper in his book, Behold and Pale Horse, where he talked about his days in the Navy and the experiences he had. But I think, and just all the stuff about, Atlantis and everything else that we hear in all of the different folklore and everything, nobody is putting things together like in every major religion. There's some reference to either water, fish, fish beings, some type of an aquatic reference. There is a lot of um, there's a lot of stories talking about water, talking about places of water, and dealing with water, whether we're talking about the Quran, we're talking about the Bible, talking about the Holy Tablets, talking about the Bhagavad Gita, any book you can name, everything goes back to water. And there's this big, long standing theory, or, they say it's a fact, which I believe it is a fact, that they don't know what's in the oceans, but well, they don't know what's in the depths of the oceans. But I believe they know some of what's in the ocean because I believe everything that we've been looking for and all of this stuff that people talk about, like, these beings and, these extraterrestrials and these places like that, I believe everything is underwater. I believe everything is underwater. Even when you start to look at how our computer systems, our how AI, how everything operates, it all goes back to water. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, like I said, just do your research into, how AI operates, how much water it takes to generate an AI process. When I talk about, how we've had um lines, like telephone lines, like electrical lines laid under the ocean, that's been there before we had our so-called modern you know electric system going. Who laid these wires? Who laid this foundation? Where does this come from? Why are there so many stories about what's beyond the ice wall and, you know, the different oceans and everything else? And I think that we're so busy looking at lands and we're looking in the sky and we're just hearing about certain places in the ocean that we're not thinking about the ocean in general. We're not thinking about the fact that if you, like others, have, exited the BS of this globe, frame of mind, and you realize that there would be no way possible for them to say that if the earth is less than 25,000 miles round in circumference, that they couldn't know, that they would only know 5% of the ocean, 25,000 mile circumference. And even if you're going through it and, if you're, that's not a lot, that's not a lot. But to say that you only have covered maybe 5%, and you're on a flat, vast, an expansive type of plane situation, then that would make a lot more sense, because I don't even think that our maps that we get, that we think we know what's going on. We think we know where we're going. We think we know where we are. I don't even think that we are where we think we are on our current maps today. I believe everything is scripted folklore, and I think it's done. Our lives are a modern folklore. That's the reason I think when we read history, it sounds so much like a made up story. Is because it's just like we have events right now today that are scripted. It's gonna make when people read these accounts years from now, it's gonna look like it was it's going to sound the same way it sounds when we read some of this stuff, and we can now analyze it with a more modern ear and more modern sense, common sense, where we're not going back and we're saying, well, it could have been like that. No, you now have smartphones, you now have the internet, you now have the ability to research on different levels. You can research online, or you could even research places where you can go to do actual further right there on site research. So you have no excuses nowadays. And this is why I think there's so much of an information overload, is because they know that the truth is out there. Man, the internet opened up floodgates. So I think what they're doing now is they're overloading us with information, because when you overload people with something, your mind will become numb to it. You'll look at it like just whatever, and you'll let things flow off you. Nothing will affect you anymore. You know, you won't even care. It's like you can hear this stuff, like with the Epstein files. They can tell you about all the different acts and names, and what happened here, who did what, this type of situation, moving people around, whatever, whatnot. And they're giving you so much of it. First, they were drip feeding it to us. Now they just kind of opened up an floodgate, and they hit you with so much of it that I think people can't consume it, and they aren't consuming it really. They're consuming it just just taking it all in from everywhere. Nobody is using any form of, well, I won't say nobody, but very little are using any type of common sense and discernment and picking these things apart, because believe me, everything that you're hearing isn't true. I don't want people to think that, everything you're hearing that, folks are now putting out is true. Now, some of this stuff is propaganda that's being mixed in with a lot of factual information, because if you muddy the waters with anytime you have something that, better yet, here's a better one. Every good lie has strong elements of truth. That's why you believe it. Every good lie has strong elements of truth. That's the reason you believe it. If it was just 100% bullshit, you would not go for it. It's the fact that they had to tell you something true to hook you in, and then you were swayed. That's the same way these situations go. They'll give you a lot of truth. They'll mix in some nonsense and some propaganda, half truths, to the point where when you have folks who actually have some discernment, like myself, start sifting through it and picking through it, and we start saying, "Nah, this. I'll accept this. This doesn't sound right." So and so, there's people like, "Oh man, see, all of it is just like." That's what they want. They want chaos. They want us not agreeing on things and going at each other and all that. That's not what it's about. What it's about is everybody going through this information, seeing what you're getting out of it, and you come to the table with your own research, and we put our minds together. That's it. Anything else